Jane, good morning. You can wave if you can hear me, Jane, because I'm not hearing.
Oh, sorry, yes.
Right. So I think we've just got just about everyone. If Maggie's here. No Maggie yet. Yeah, well, despite the fact that some people are on Devon time, which Peter O'Brien assures me is different from the rest of the world, I will get started, and then people who need to catch up can do so later. So good morning to everybody. Thank you very much for showing up. We've already got one chat message. So that's a good morning. Okay. Let me just share my screen to you all, and then we can get started. So this is course 103, which is all about the asset register. And so if you haven't called in to sign up about the asset register, bad luck. Try it anyway, it's fun. And just the usual notes. Some people will notice a few differences here. So first of all, let me just say that the idea of the video recording is that hopefully we'll cover all the grounds you need to know about during the show, and therefore you'll capture it on the video and the sound. The presentation today is much smaller in terms of numbers of slides, so I've removed the comment about racing through because hopefully it'll be much more sedate and orderly today, because a lot more of it will be live demonstration, hoping that works. We are going to be doing an interactive session to try out the geolocation. So I hope those of you who've got a phone or a tablet or a laptop are willing and able to participate. It's not crucial. It's not the end of the world if you can't, but the opportunity is there. And it's quite good fun today. So I hope that you'll enjoy it. So what we're going to talk about is the asset register, why we have one, what's different about its as a layer, the most frequently asked question about asset registers, and then we'll go into the asset register itself, my splendidly valuable hints and tips, and then we'll play with the geolocation system. So why do you need an asset register inside Parish Online? Because nearly everybody starts off with one as a spreadsheet somewhere. And the first point, which I try to make in everybody I'm trying to persuade to use Parish Online, it gets you out of the filing cabinet, off paper, and into a digital data system that's available 24/7. It enables you to show the assets in their geographical position, and you can include photographs with them so that people get a much better understanding of what your asset is. And we have one called the pump house, and that doesn't mean a thing, but as soon as people see it, they understand what it is. You may notice that along this slide, I've indicated that there's quite an insurance reason for having an asset register. And that's sort of the upside downside bit. So the reason for an asset register is very much because there's likely to be at some point in your history either a claim for damage done to your property, or perhaps even worse, a claim against you for damage done to somebody by your property in some way. So the story I keep for everybody, just to make the point that this is crucial, is that in the archives from Parish Online, there is a picture of a coach that's been flattened by a tree. And it was determined that the tree was the property of the local council, and that they had not done sufficiently to check that it was safe, and that when a major part of it fell on top of the coach and really critically injured the driver, it became the council's fault, and they got charged something like £500,000. So one of the major reasons for the asset register and for keeping it up to date and for generating reports with it is that it's so much easier for your insurance company to defend you against claims against you if they can demonstrate due diligence on your part. And that due diligence does come from having your asset register up to date, using it to demonstrate that there is an inspection routine on everything, and that you can show that the inspection routine was followed, and then the supporting documentation in terms of photographs, inspection reports, maintenance cycles, all that sort of stuff. And by being able to add attachments to every record, every time you sort of have a park bench painted or a street lamp repaired, you can put the data inside your Parish Online record for that particular piece of kit. And it's all in the same place at the same time whenever anyone needs it. So you've got a history that you're building up of the fact that your particular council is taking due diligence over its assets. And so forgive me for stressing the insurance point, but it is very, very helpful when when it comes to spending money. I guess I just covered all of this. If you can show that you've been doing all the proper reports and so forth as you're supposed to, then everything is far easier if it ever comes to defending a claim. And you'll find that your actual record keeping is much quicker once you've got everything inside the system. So it's a pain in the neck, unfortunately, to transfer your asset register from its current format, particularly if it's on paper, but even if it's on a spreadsheet. But once you're inside Parish Online, then actually updating it and maintaining it becomes a lot quicker. So in Parish Online as a whole, hopefully you've all become familiar with the fact that there are three main types of layers of data. So by far the most numerous are the third-party layers. So those are the ones that are provided by your county council, your district council, DEFRA, the Environment Agency, Historic England, and all the rest of them. There are hundreds of these layers, but they all belong to other people. So they're very much read-only. Really, really helpful because you can overlay the data on your digital map and show things, but the data, you have no control over what goes into it. It's just you're using it. In parish layers, that's where you can create your own layers for anything that you want for local needs. They're entirely up to you. You create them, you make them, you determine their structure and their geometry, and you can edit them and amend them at will. And then we come to this weird business of the asset register, which is a sort of a hybrid mix of the two. So that the structure, the style, i.e. the color coding and the icons and that sort of thing, and the geometry, or whether they're points, layers, or polygons or lines, are all built into the system as it comes to you. So you have no control over the structure of the asset register. You have full control over what data goes into it. And of course, you can run the reports at any time that you need the data to come out of the system. And we'll be covering that today. There are times when the asset register doesn't have all the information in it that you want. And so the solution to that is to create a complementary layer in parish layers of your own. And then when the time comes that you want to demonstrate or show information, you just turn on the asset register and the parish layer at the same time, and all the data becomes visible. But there are cases where, for instance, you may decide that the way or where you store your grit bins, you may want it to be a polygon rather than an item, perhaps because you've got a fence around it or something like that. The grit bins inside the asset register are just points. So if you need to be able to show the the fence around the grit bin or whatever it happens to be, you need to put it as a complementary layer. So I hope that's clear. All right, the most frequently asked question is always, can I import the data from my existing spreadsheet into Parish Online? And the answer in nearly every case is, I'm afraid not. And the reason for that is that the data in your spreadsheet doesn't have any geographical information system location data on it. It doesn't say, or it may say it's on the corner of High Street and West Street, but it doesn't say in terms of eastings and northings or latitude and longitude or anything like that. And by the time you've put all that into the spreadsheet, it's usually a lot faster just to go ahead and enter the data into Parish Online. So one of the beauties is that there is no requirement for you to do this all at once. You can certainly take your time over creating your asset register. Just do a little bit whenever you've got the time, or if better, offload the actual inputting of the data onto some extraordinarily gifted child. Any 6-year-old can do it. Why not you have your 6-year-old do it rather than you? Or delegate it to somebody else if there's anyone else you've got to delegate to. But lots of parish clerks are on their own. The workload falls entirely on one person. And if there's any way that you can offload it, then I suggest you do. But there's no need to get into a panic. The asset register will be there forever. And you can just take your time when you get a spare few minutes, throw in another couple of rows from your spreadsheet. But unfortunately, there isn't a way of importing the data. If you do have a spreadsheet that's got all the location data on it, then by all means call up Parish Online and ask them if they will do the data import for you. This is particularly applicable to large towns and large councils who've got huge numbers of assets, but by and large for most parishes, it's quicker just to go ahead and do it manually, I'm afraid. So what have you got in the asset register? Well, on the left-hand side of this picture is the list of layers that you get in the asset register collection. So the asset register collection comes immediately under the parish layers in your layers, columns of layers on the left-hand side. And when you open it up, you find that there's this list of pre-registered layers for you. And each register already has the data format underneath. And with one exception, the data format is the same in every record. So every record is asking you to store exactly the same amount of data in it. And going back to my second slide, you'll see that the vast number of information fields that you're asked to complete are required by insurance companies. So there'll be the date of when you got the asset. There'll be the value that it had when you were given it or you bought it. It'll be the value it's got now. How often do you revalue it? What was the last date of valuation? And what's the replacement cost? And I mention that because I'm sure most of you will have found this out, but if there's anybody who hasn't yet, by and large, the fire brigade nowadays, unless there's a threat to human life, will just sit and let a building burn. Right? They will not risk the lives of firemen any longer, roaring into a building which they know to be empty, when it's much easier just to let it go. There's no danger to them. And I think this is a sensible approach, but it does mean that every insurance company nowadays needs you to work on a replacement cost. That's what they're going to insure you for, because by and large, when your village hall burns down, it will be completely wrecked and you're going to have to start from scratch. So replacement value is a major factor in these data records. Now, the asset register is used by across the whole country. I'm sorry, I got a big one. I keep forgetting to do that. Right. And therefore, you don't get the chance to change anything. So that doesn't mean to say that the changes are not possible. If you find that there is a need for something that is probably reflected in many parish councils, then by all means, start a comment system in the community forum or open up a ticket and say, can we have this, that, or t'other? So as we get through this, you'll see that we are indeed Parish Online is working on a new structure for the streetlights, because people are saying we need to know whether they are LEDs or SOCs. We need to know if the light pole is cement or plastic or whatever. And so they're changed. So you can adjust or get the layers adjusted. It's just a matter of enough councils saying, "Hoy, we need a change, please." So what we're going to do when you input your asset data is choose a layer into which it belongs. And to show you how to do that, I'm just going to click on the first layer, buildings, and we'll go to the next slide. And up we come with the feature editor, which hopefully most of you are familiar with by now. And you'll see that the category is not only a red required box, you cannot save a record until you've selected a category, but it's also a drop-down box. And so the drop-down box varies for each layer that you're in. So the type of category within buildings is very different from the category list that you'll see within building contents, for instance. And we'll get into all that in a second. We're in fact going to click on category in a second. Let me just mention here that the only column of data that varies throughout the asset register is this one, that if you're talking about a building, the chances are extremely high that there is a property reference number for it, and therefore you can store that in here, and that removes any degree of ambiguity at all, because that's the same global number, if you will, that or a universal number that the insurance companies use, that the Ordnance Survey uses, and that sort of thing. And lo and behold, we'll show you later on where you get the UPRN from. But buildings is the only layer in which you're asked to put in a UPRN. So we're clicking on category to show you the drop-down list. And because we'd selected buildings up here, you've got a list of the standard sort of buildings that parish councils across the across the country tend to be recording as assets. So this you'll see is a scrollable list. There's a dark side here, and you can scroll down and see all the rest of the layers, categories. And in nearly every case, the list is longer than the window that you see open, so you can scroll through and get different ones. So up here at the top, if you decide that you don't want to be storing something in a building, you want to be storing it in one of the other layers, you can change it and go to a different layer. And I'm just
Excuse me, Graham.
Yes.
I've clicked on my buildings, and all I've got is a tick. My feature editor hasn't come up.
All you got is which? Sorry.
I've gone into asset register, and I've got a tick next to buildings, but the feature editor that you've got there hasn't come up.
Ah, yes. You need to actually either to right click in the layer so it says add a feature, or you need to have, if you've already got something in there, then you need to click on something that's
I've got you sorted. Thank you.
Okay. So where are we? We're talking about the select a layer box. Okay, so at the moment, and I do have a request in at the moment to change this, but at the moment, when you select a layer from here, the drop-down list shows you all of your parish layers and all of your asset register layers, which is a pain in the neck if you're entering a lot of data and you want to jump from one to the other. So the big feature to mention here is that in this box, you can type the first few letters of the layer that you want. So if you know that you're going to be moving down to outdoor property or something, outdoor furniture, just type in OUT and the system will jump to it. So it's a big time saver. What I'm hoping for is in the future, if you come into this feature editor via the asset register layer, then only the asset registers layers will be showing. But at the moment, that's just a request. It hasn't happened yet. So let's just change this from buildings to building contents, and you'll see that lo and behold, the category list has changed as well. Now, the place to go to get the full list of all these categories is in the knowledge base, which happens to be a very good entry for the asset register. There's a neat little video, but there's also a really helpful list of all the layers and all the categories. And one of the reasons I suggest that you store this as a bookmark is that you will be referring to this quite frequently. And as we get into making plans ahead of entering your register, you'll see why. So that's just to mention there that the knowledge base is a useful reference for you. Two ways of getting to it. You can either store its URL in your browser and just jump to it as a bookmark, or each time you're in Parish Online, if you go to the cogwheel in the top right-hand corner and click on the cogwheel, then you'll get a drop-down list, the second one of which is help and select and support. So moving on, here's the heads and tense things about getting ready for this. So assuming that you have a spreadsheet at the moment with all your assets in it, in sort of rows and columns, it would help you, I think, if you can add to the spreadsheet, either add another couple of columns or put these in pencil yourself, the layer and category that each row in there you want to put it in. So that's why I mentioned you need to have the full list in front of you, probably as a printout from the knowledge base. So you know what categories there are, you know what layers there are, and you know where you're going to put each record as you go through your spreadsheet. It's just a big time saver rather than doing it in rather more an ad hoc fashion. Even more interestingly, if you can then sort that spreadsheet on the layers and the categories, it means that once you're inside any particular layer in the feature editor, those of you who are familiar with the feature editor, each time you've entered a save, it will come up with a blank record ready for the next item. And if you don't have to change layer because you've got all the next sort of 6 items are already in the same layer, then you're going to speed up your process quite a lot. So it's worth taking the advanced time to add those 2 columns to your spreadsheet for layers and categories, stick them in for each row, and then select and sort in that order, and then it makes it much quicker to enter the data. So, oops, I'm so sorry. There we go. Right, dearie me. All right. And I did discuss with you, and I'm going to show you this in the demo shortly, that the ability to type in the first 3 or 4 letters is a list shortening feature. And it shortens the list to the layers that match your 3 letters, and it's much quicker to select one from that one. We're going to show you putting in attachments, because they are the way that you generate the track record. Every time there's an inspection, every time there's a painting done, you either show the contractor's report, or you put the invoice in, or whatever it happens to be, add that to your record for that particular park bench or street lamp or whatever it happens to be. And you then got the due diligence that the insurance companies need to show that you have indeed been doing what you said you would do. You'll notice that in your asset register, there's a last valuation date and there's a last inspection date. And of course, they will record the last one that you did, but they won't have a history of what was the last one before that. That hasn't sort of been featured as a way of recording that. So I'm suggesting that, again, before you change a last inspection date, take a screenshot of the column, the data record, and then just add that as an attachment, and you've got a historical record then of each valuation date change and each inspection date change. And there is, as my sort of contribution to your speed up today, we're going to go through the date selection in Parish Online, because if you bought something sort of back in 1993, going back to 1993 looks like it's a very tedious process in the date column, but there are ways of speeding it up. And so we're going to go through that. So I think, if I'm correct, this is the bit where we go into a live demonstration. Yes. So what I'm going to do now is just switch over to Parish Online itself and go into it. And then we're going to move your photographs so I can get you out of the way, go back into the beginning. And we're going to select a layer from the asset register. And here we are, we've already got the buildings layer selected. Remember, to select a layer, you just click on it. That's deselected now. Click anywhere in it and it's selected. Right click anywhere in it and you can add a feature. So then up pops this screen that we were talking about earlier. I'm going to say this is in the buildings layer, so let's add a village hall. So if I come down here, scrolling down, you'll see I do indeed have a village hall, and I'm going to call it, sorry, village hall. Can I call it test? Maybe not. And then I said I would show you how to find the UPRN number. So the UPRN number is generated for every building in the country, and every building in the country is registered in your address base. So if we just come out of here for a moment, you can close down the asset registers and go down to the addresses. Turn on the address plus points just by clicking in the layer. You'll notice every building now has a dot. Click on any dot for the building that you're talking about, and up it pops in the plus points, and you'll see the second item is the 12-digit UPRN code. Well, I think it's maybe up to 12. I think it actually is 12. And that is unique to that building. So everybody who's in the business of knowing what building you're talking about will recognize the UPRN code. So you can now copy this and paste it back into the feature editor. Let's turn that layer back off. Go back into the asset register, go back into our feature. And here we are, the village hall. Now we can type in whatever that number was. Sorry, it's going to be digits. So let's make some digits. Name and description. Notice that none of these other fields needs to be entered at this point. The only red one was the category. And if we're in buildings, I think it's well worthwhile putting in the UPRN code, but you don't have to put in this other data now. If you've got it all to hand, then of course it's very easy to do. What I was going to show you was the shortcuts for dates. So let's just say that we have the 2nd of September of 1993 as the date that we purchased the village hall. To get into here, if I click in the date purchased, up comes the calendar, and roaring back through every day and month and to get back to 1993 is very tedious. But if I click on the year, it changes to years only, and now it's a piece of cake to go back to 1993, he said. And why I chose the date so far ahead, it was going to be March. No, it was September, wasn't it, the 3rd? So let's just say there's September, and now that's really quite quick. So, and you do exactly the same in the evaluation dates and the inspection dates. But hopefully the evaluation dates and the inspection dates, the last ones will be a lot more recent. Then most items will have an inspection frequency, so put that in any notes you want to. Notice that there is no indication of being able to save yet because we haven't actually said which building this applies to. So we'll just scroll down until we can find our village hall, which of course already has an entry, but we'll just say it's going to be there. And now you can save. And it pops up. It pre-selects the icon and the color for you. That's all. That's part of the styling that you don't have any control over, but it does come up with the appropriate icon for, in this case, a village hall. And you'll see that the record is now cleared. It's ready for the next one, assuming that you want to add another record from your asset register. If you've got them sorted in layer order, then your next item will be building. Or if it isn't, you can go up here and change it. And then you'll see that now I'm starting with my layers. The thing to do is to type in, let's say we want playground equipment. So we've got PLAY, sorry, let's try PLA. Well, just scroll down now and we'll have playground equipment. Hopefully, do better at this. PLAY, there we go. And it jumps straight to playground equipment. So there's a shortcut for finding your way through what might be hundreds of layers if you've been a very busy parish layer creator. So it's a time saver. So I've done the list shortening, we've done the UPRN, we've done the date selection, screenshots I mentioned. So if you've got dates in here, depending on what sort of computer you're running, a screenshot is just a matter of a couple of clicks. So if I do this on my Mac, I can just now say I want to select that column, and now it's saved, and I can just add that as the attachment. So we were going to show you how we add attachments and why you would want to name your attachments advantageously. So first of all, let's find an attachment and name it. So I'll just jump now to my desktop, which has got the screenshot on it. This is the one that's at 10:30. So we'll say it was that one. We'll just rename it. And then you may want to put the date first or the item, but if it's the item name, keep it very short. And the reason for this is that when you get your attachments in line, you may have, after a bit of time, 10 or 20 or 30 attachments. The question is, which one is which? And usually particularly if we're doing reports and so forth, the key thing will be the date. So it may be, records of the grass mowing done by your contractor. They're all going to say that either the contractor's name or his invoice number or something, but really it's probably the date you want to create. So I would put the date in first. And then because the system sorts numerically, you want to think about putting in the date in year, month, day order, which is sort of the international standard. So if I were changing this one, I'd say, look, the date is the 22nd today of March, and it's the 23rd of March in 1922. Let's try it there. So then you would say, and this is just say a mowing, and we'll call it that. And now we've named our, well, we haven't because the system didn't like that. Again, didn't mean to get rid of oh, well, this is the danger of doing things live, isn't it? Let's keep things down to 2203, 23, but not delete the PNG. There we go. So now you've renamed your and misspelt, but never mind, your contract. So now we go back to Parish Online and we say we're going to add a record, and the mowing record will fall under, let's just say for argument's sake, the village hall. So we come out of the feature editor mode and we click on the new village hall record we've just created. And it pops up. Now you can add an attachment. So you come down here, it says you have none. I want to add one. Where is it hidden? It's hidden here. So I put it there, and there it is, and it pops up. And now you can see why I named it the way I did, because this is not a very long space to put multiple records. And once you start getting lots of them, it makes a lot more sense if they're in a code or a name that you can understand, so you can pick them out easily one from another. I hope that's clear. Anyway, that's where you add attachments. You need to have created the record first. You need to have closed the feature editor and then reselect the record. And then it opens up to show you attachments. So in other words, when you're creating the feature, there is no way of adding an attachment to it. It only pops up after you've saved and gone back into the item again. I hope that's crystal clear. Right, let's go back to my notes. We've done everything on that demonstration. So let's go back into the demonstration. And we've done all those things. So now we want to look at getting the data out, or you viewing it and editing it in a hurry. And the best way to do that is the table view. So to get to table view, you're going to right click on any asset, on the appropriate asset register layer. And then you're going to select table view from the drop-down list. And we do that. Up you come with the view that looks like this. And you can do editing from here. So let's imagine you've got a whole row of stuff. I mean, I've got 4 items in here, but you might have 50. And you decide that you need to change a note or add to the note. So you just go to the one you want to. You won't have it on this slide because this is a slide, but you can just go to here, click on here, and you either overwrite what's there or just add to it. And then click on any other layer and that will save it for you. So you can change a whole row of a page full of data if you like. If you're changing one field or whatever, you can just have it ready to cut and paste in and away you go. It's by far the fastest way of editing data. So that's table view. Let's come back into the next item. That wasn't it, sorry. There. Next slide. There's a wonderful, fairly new feature under the Tools menu called Asset Register Export. And what that does is generate a page like this. If you click on Tools up here, You've got a drop-down list, and one of the choices, in fact, the bottom choice now is Asset Register Export. Up comes this little column here. And you'll see at the moment that you can choose the format, but the only choice there is PDF, but I'm sure there's more coming. I've asked for a CSV format, and the way the system works, the more people that say, yes, this is important to us, the more likely it is to get done by Parish Online. So this is my little plea for you to go into the community forum. Blimey, sorry about that. I don't quite know how I got there. Let's go back to the community forum, that one. You can go to the community forum, and we'll show you how to do that later, and put in your support for this particular topic. And I'd be grateful if those of you who feel it's important to be able to export to a CSV file so that you can then work on the data if you wish. That's good. So when it's selecting the report, by default, every layer in your asset register is selected, but you can go in here and just deselect the ones that you don't want to show up in this report. So the default is they're all on, but you can deselect down to just one layer if that's what you want. The include maps and include zero options here are entirely up to you, but if you click on the question mark, it tells you what it does and why you would want to do it. And so I've just said, click on there and find out whether you want to do it or not. And then when you're ready, generate the report by clicking on the button here. Now, depending on, particularly if you selected the include maps option, it may take quite a while to generate this report. You do, in the live system, get a little sort of circling set of arrows here that goes round and round and round and tell you it's generating the report. But when it's finished, this open button goes from being grayed out to being ready to use. And so when that's popped up in bold letters, you just click on open, and that's what I'm doing now.
Graham?
Yes.
So I've done this, and I mentioned to you in an email yesterday about the defibrillators, and I've just pulled up a report for my assets, and it's including 250 defibrillators from all over the country. So how do I actually get rid of that and just have my two?
So a wonderful thing. I had, rather than discuss it here, because I'm going to have to go into your screen and see what happens, I think. Shall we?
Okay, fair enough.
Well,
yeah.
just, if you're going to be around at the end of this session, then we can just do it then, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Thank
So
you.
for everybody else, you'll see that I've generated a 95-page report here. And then it's a PDF file, so you can go into it and do whatever you want with it in terms of PDFs. Hopefully, as I said, in a few weeks or days' time, we'll be able to do this as a spreadsheet. But if you're doing your insurance company renewal and they say, sir, what is it that we're insuring? This is what you want to generate. And then they know exactly what the value is of each item, what each item is, and what the replacement value in particular, which is one of the fields listed, is for each item. And then there's no question in anyone's mind what is on the list of items that your policy is going to come back with. So a big time saver, a very useful report, but I can't wait for it to be a CSV file.
I've just done defibrillators and I've got 250 as well.
Right. Well, clearly we need to look at that one.
We've only got 5.
Let me get to the end of the show and we'll take a look and see what it is. This may be something we need to report to Parish Online. Maybe we found a big error. All right. So the last way of getting data out is the data extract facility. To get to the data extract facility, click on any item in the register. So if you've got the register turned on, just click on any feature. If you don't have it turned on, turn on one layer, find a feature and click on it. It doesn't matter which one it is that you have here, but you just want to get to these 3 dots and click on data extract. And what that comes up with is this page. And this is the one where you select the layers that you want to have in this report. So there's a drop-down list here of all your lists. So you can say, I want to know all about my defibrillators. So select defibrillators and then run. And the report will generate, in theory, a report of 5 items. But in practice, it may get 250. I don't know. Have you tried running the the extract data. Tracy, you're going to go a whirl. See if you get. I want to know if you get 250 of them.
I'm just doing the defibs at the moment.
Yeah, I've got 250.
Really? Okay. Well, we're going to have fun reporting to Parish Online after this then. If you want to narrow down the data that you're looking at, you can apply filters in the usual fashion. I'm hoping that people have done training sessions 1, 2, and 3 before this one, so they will know all about that. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, this is where we're going to have hopefully a little bit of fun, and things can easily go wrong here. So please be patient and treat this as a light-hearted thing. But I love geolocation. It's a really, really helpful thing. So the idea is that you've got your asset register set up, you've got your 250 defibrillators in place, and you now need a picture of each one. And it's much easier to put Parish Online onto your phone, turn on the GPS tracking so that it moves the map to where you happen to be. And then when you're standing in front of the defibrillator, you can take a picture of it and add that way to your asset register. So it's rather a sweet way of adding photographs to the asset register whilst you're out in the field standing in front of it. And again, we go back to my business of recruiting all the youth that you can. We've charged our local school with sending the children around to see A, how many bus shelters they can find, and B, whether they can photograph them all. And because you give them all access into Parish Online on their phones, it's fascinating. And what comes back is a marvelous definition of what a bus shelter is to a child, because it isn't necessarily what you think of as a bus shelter, but it's fun. Anyway, so before you can take a photograph of something, it needs to exist in the asset register. So what I'm going to do now is invite you to create an entry in your asset register that will be the item that you're going to go and photograph. So for today's exercise, it should be something pretty close to you. I don't want you to go racing off down the street to catch the nearest lamp standard. Find something in your office, a waste paper bin, a flower pot, your desk, create it as an object in the asset register, and then we'll use it to do the geolocation exercise. So first exercise is to add the target to the register. So you're going to do this. I'm going to sit back and do nothing. So what's on my screen now is what I'd like you to do, please. And I'll walk you through it verbally so you can get on with it on your screens in Parish Online. So you need to go into the asset register and select a layer. And the one I suggest you take in is something like building contents, because that's where you're going to add your waste paper bin or your flower pot or your shredder or whatever it is. So you go into the asset register collection. You right click on the building contents layer until you get the add feature, and you click on that. And then you select the appropriate category, which is going to be business equipment, say, or you may be furniture if you're going to photograph your desk, whatever you wish. Doesn't matter, because we're going to delete this record afterwards unless your desk actually is belonging to is an asset for the parish. So give it a name. And if you're not going to delete this afterwards, I suggest you put something like test in it, just so you can find it easily later. And locate it where you are at the moment, so that you don't have very far to go. So you need to scroll on your map to your current location and stick the feature there so that we're going to come back and find it. So when you've got it in location, your save button should now be clear and black, and you can click on it. And you need to close the feature editor, click on the X, the top right of the column, and you're back in the main system. But hopefully your new item is now showing up on your map. So let me just check with people. Have we got any issues there so far? Everyone's managed to get a system? Nobody's shaking their heads or shouting.
Unfortunately, I'm in Bury St Edmunds and my Parish Online is Newmarket.
Right. Does that matter?
Can I put something somewhere else?
Sure.
Outside of my parish map?
Well, absolutely. Yes.
I've just put mine in my pavilion at work at Harston because I'm in Ely and I work in Harston.
Right. But
So I've just popped it in the pavilion for now and pretended that's my office.
right. That's fine. What I need you to do is to select something that is where you are at the moment. Otherwise, this is not going to work because you're going to have to run away down the street.
No, I have done
The
that,
next-
but I've just
next
pretending it's there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's fine. All right, so the
For
next
some reason,
item now-
Graham, I can't save.
you can't save. Well,
No,
either
the,
you haven't
save.
either haven't filled in the red categories box, or you haven't yet added the item to the map. One or the other.
All right, okay.
So everyone's with us now? Okay, the next thing is we're going to do then is to set up geolocation on your phone or your laptop or your tablet, whatever it is you're going to be using.
I haven't got my phone up here.
Well, have you got a tablet or a laptop or anything with a camera on it? Even your desktop will do for today's exercise. Anyway, it's not crucial. If you can just sit back and relax if you're not going to be doing this. But for those of you who have got a phone or tablet, again, in the normal case, you would turn off its Wi-Fi because the GPS is going to home in on the Wi-Fi unless you turn it off, in which case it'll home in on where you actually are. So again, it doesn't matter for today very much because I'm sure you're quite close to your Wi-Fi router. But in the real world, when you're out sort of walking through the park or whatever, you need to be relying on the built-in SIM in your phone. And you actually have to physically turn off the Wi-Fi so that it doesn't link to the wrong place. So you need now to go into Parish Online via your browser on your phone. And for those of you who've never done this before, the address is parishonline.xmap.cloud. You can do a / login. No, I don't even bother with that. So you should be able to log into your normal XMAP in the normal way on your phone.
Can I just say, I'm just lost because you're saying you want us to use the phone as well as the screen.
Well, I'm sorry, no, what you used the screen was to create the feature in the first place, because before you go anywhere, you have to have the feature inside Parish Online.
Surely the phone, you know, if I use my phone, I've got loads of pictures on my phone. I'd have to put them on the screen. I'd have to email them to myself first because they'd have to be in a place on the computer, wouldn't they, first?
Well, no, that's one of the funs of geolocation, is that because you can use your browser on your phone to go into Parish Online, when you take a photograph, we'll add it to the record that you want it to be.
Okay, I got a bit lost there.
No, that's right. That's easily done. So
It's
anyway,
got such a poor signal, it's still waiting to log on to Parish Online.
Well, that's, yes, I'm sorry about that. I really have no control over that.
So we have to put our normal username and password into the login section.
Indeed you do.
On the phone. Right.
And I can understand that's an issue for some people because you get so used to the computer doing it for you, you've forgotten what your login or password is.
Oh, I wrote mine down.
Right.
Well, I don't know what
Well, again, we're just doing, this is the fun part for this, but it is very useful if you have an asset register and you want to have photographs of the assets. It's a great system of going out and getting it. I should perhaps mention there's a fabulous little video in the knowledge base on this, where you get Chris walking around his local park and putting the park benches into Parish Online. And perhaps I should have mentioned that beforehand, but if you get stuck here, there is his video in the knowledge base underneath asset register that shows you how to do just what we're doing. So if you've got Parish Online up in your browser on your phone, there is either on the left or the right, depending on what sort of phone you've got, there'll be 3 little vertical dots as a menu choice. And if you click on that, it'll come up and offer to turn your geolocation on. So you can tap that so it turns it on and then click the X to move it away. And what geolocation does, that turning it on, is it puts a blue dot which represents where you are.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was muted myself again.
So turning on the geolocation toggle just puts a blue dot on your phone, which represents where you are at the moment. And then Parish Online says, maybe use your location to control the map. And you say, yes, allow. And then that doesn't actually make any immediate change, but what it does ask you to do next, or what you should do next, is move down to the crosshair icon, which is probably in the middle of the bottom of your screen, and tap that, toggle it, and so it changes color. And what that means is it now synchronizes the map to the blue dot. And you're not going to see this today because hopefully you're all going to stay sitting at your desks. But once you've done that, then wherever you move in your parish, the map will follow you. So that when you eventually stop in front of the offending bench and you're going to photograph it, the map will say, I'm where you are and you are where I am. It tends to get more accurate the longer that you're using it. So the system gradually homes in much more accurately on where you are after a couple of minutes. So it's worth waiting just a few minutes until it's logged in. And I'm now talking about what you'll be doing in the real world rather than what we're doing today. But what we're doing today is just going through the motions so that you know what to do when the real world arrives. Right, so, yep.
So do you give all the children the username and password so that they can go in? I'm a bit confused now. I'm reluctant to give.
Yes, but this is okay. So what you do is create something that only they have access to, and it's only a very temporary thing. You kill off and they all have exactly the same account. So you just call it children at 40UD069 or whatever your login is. Give them the password of school or something like that. And then they all have access. They all can create a record, but only on the features that you've allowed them to see. Then as soon as they finish, you kill the record again.
Mm. I think I'd be a bit worried what they'd take photos of.
Well, the beauty of the system is at least they're going to, well, as I mentioned, we had fun with bus shelters. We found that all sorts of things got defined as a bus shelter by their querying minds. Because it depends what age you choose. If they're 9-year-olds and in the naughty stage, you get all sorts of things. But if they're 7 and they're delighted to be obedient, then you get a much better answer. On to the next slide. Okay.
Can I just say, Graham, my geolocation is all over the place. It's taken a trip all around Chichester at the moment. So
really?
Mm.
And this is after you've allowed it to home in on where you are?
Yeah, yeah.
And do you have a good signal on your phone?
Not fantastic where I am. We've got big old thick walls of a grade 2-star listed building. So
oh, right. Well, I suspect then it's having a hard time finding you.
Yeah, I'm currently in the fire station, apparently.
All right.
We're going down the greasy pole.
So when you get to the feature that you're going to photograph with, and today it's your waste bin or your shredder or your desk, whatever you chose, it helps to turn off that follow button, the crosshairs icon, just so that the blue dot doesn't obscure the feature, because you now want to turn on the layer by tapping on the menu button, those 3 vertical dots. It brings up the layers. You click on the appropriate one, which we decided today was going to be building contents. And then you can tap on the icon itself that's popped up, and you should be able to scroll down the record to the attachments bit. Then you click on plus, take a photo, and the photo will go into the record for your
Sorry, are we talking about the 3 dots on the right-hand side of the phone?
Well, be careful whether your 3 dots are referring to the browser itself or whether it's inside Parish Online. But usually,
well, it's just, if I click on those 3 dots, it just says geolocation with a tick. I haven't got anything else there.
Okay, have you got an icon that looks like a crosshairs? Usually
I have.
okay, that's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, I've got that, and that's showing me where I am.
Right. So if you click on it again, it turns it off, just so that it enables you to see the icon that represents your wastebasket or your shredder or whatever it is you see. When you do this for real outside,
Oh, I see. Right. Okay.
you'll find you get in front of the park bench or whatever it is, and you can't actually tap on it because there's fucking great blue dots in the way. So you're just going to move the blue dot out to one side. So you open up the record, take your photograph, add it in. And then if you've actually done this for real today, you can now go back into Parish Online on your computer, desktop computer. You may need to refresh the screen just to get it all up to date, but then you'll find that the photograph has arrived. But don't worry if it hasn't happened today. We've done this in quite a hurry. B, you haven't had a chance to look at the video yet. And C, sometimes it depends on the state of your iPhone and its connection. Or even if it is an iPhone, you know, if you've got an Android or something else like that, who knows? But that was today's fun. Let me just move on to the next stage, which is the summary of where we've done. So we've discussed why there's a need for the asset register, i.e. insurance. We've discussed the structure, that you have no control over it, but you do control the data that goes in, and in theory, the data that comes out, but clearly we have an issue with defibrillators at least. I demonstrated using the asset register, and some of you have been following along and creating records. You created a record for the geolocation, and hopefully that's worked for people, although I did say that there's a major caveat on that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on your signal, it depends on your phone, it depends on a lot of stuff. But I just wanted to introduce you to the idea of geolocation because it can be very useful and a time saver. So that's it for the asset register. We now get to the Q&A session. I've mentioned here that the knowledge base is something that's really worth your while looking at. You can URL and bookmark the knowledge base so that you don't have to go through it through Parish Online. In other words, you can just browse straight to it without being in Parish Online if you want to. As always, I'm looking for people to suggest new topics that they'd like training sessions on, please. And I've now created a timetable of upcoming sessions on the website. So I've given you that link here. Don't forget, this slideshow will be coming to you all. And so all of these links which I put in here will work, and you be able to go to them from inside the slideshow should you want to. So let me just turn off the sharing, make sure there aren't a bunch of questions in the chat, which clearly is the issue with the defibs. Jan, doing a screenshot on a Mac is beautiful. I prefer it to anything else. You click on the Shift key, you click on the Command key, hold them both down. If you want to do a screenshot of the entire screen, hit number 3. And if you want to do a screenshot of just part of the screen, hit number 4, and it comes up with the crosshairs and asks you to select where you want the screenshot to be. And then on a Mac, it stores it in your desktop folder. So the first place you go to after you've done the screenshot, there's a very nice click that says, I've taken the photograph, sounds like a camera going off. And then the screenshot will be in your desktop.
Thanks.
It's slightly different for people with Windows or with Linux.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Welcome. Can I import data from the parish layer into the asset register? Not at the moment. You'd be amazed, Peter, at how often. That's the second most frequently asked question. What you can do for copying from layers to layer at the moment is you can copy the shapes, the boundaries, the points, but you cannot yet copy the data itself.
Right.
So if you've got something that's got a really complicated set of shapes, like all your mowing fields or something, and you want to put them into a new layer. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, Maureen. I should have put it in the prerequisites list. I will do that next time. But thank you. So everybody else got any questions, please? Doesn't necessarily have to be on the asset register. If you've got other questions you're running up, now's a good time to come up with them.
It was just about going public. That's not going to happen on this one, is it? the asset register.
You want to go public with your asset register?
No,
No.
I just realised. So it was. It's because I'm doing
Something else.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yes.
So we can do a going public question if you like, Yvonne, if that's assuming no one else has got anything else to deal with. And I haven't forgotten the poor old defibrillators that Louise is looking into.
Yes, it was just I did that tree little project, didn't I, about the trees,
Yeah.
but they can't see. I don't know. I've put it on an email, you know, the link, but they've said they can't, you know, can't see the map. So it's just a blur.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Why don't you email the link to me, Yvonne, and then
we'll see. Yeah, I was going to do that actually, and it's fine. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you.
Advise.
Because one councillor said he could see it, and then I thought, well, that's strange that another one says they can't. So maybe one was telling fibs that he didn't actually look at it, because most of them don't read my emails, but never mind. Let's not go.
Sounds classic.
Anything you put in the asset register can be seen by all users of your parish online.
That is correct, yes.
But when in the other bits, the features that you put on in the other layers
yes,
are not
I agree
visible.
that you can select the layers or what people see, but in the asset register, I mean, it's in theory, it's public information, isn't it? It's what you've done with your parish money. So everybody ought to be able to see it. And I would have thought you wanted everyone to see it. But
absolutely. I just didn't want us to be having to repeat the work for everybody.
I see. Yeah. So yes, anyone you've given an account to can come into the asset register and look for it.
But when you give somebody else access, do you give them their own separate username and password so you know what they've done when they've been on there, or is it
that depends entirely on conditions, on the circumstances, Diane. So a lot of people you would give only read-only access to, so all they can do is look at it. So it doesn't really matter which account they use for that. And you can save yourself a lot of time and trouble if you just create an account called read-only, and then you tell everyone that is and the password, because they can't do anything with it except have a look at what you're doing.
Okay.
Then the next layer up of user type is editor, and an editor is able to make changes to any layer that already exists that he has access to, but he cannot change anything else, or he cannot create a new layer. So that's an editor. So you have control over what they do. And I suggest that from editor upwards, you absolutely have a unique log-on for each person. But if you've got, for instance, we have a parish council of 9 people, and I have a common parish account that they can all use to come in, because I like to share the bookmarks. And one of the features of bookmarks is that they're unique to the user that created them. So if it's the same creator who's, sorry, I need someone else to run and get the phone. They have, okay, good. Then where were we? Yeah, the editors, everyone above, editor and above, you want to have a unique login. I give the same login to everybody on the parish council so that we can all share bookmarks. So when I bookmark things like planning applications and the village hall operating manual, that sort of thing, it's available to everybody for them to edit and add to. Trying to get the communal knowledge of everybody into one place. Anyone else?
Right. Just a quick question, Graham. So you might have already answered this, but can we actually create an item from our mobile phone? So if we got, say, the street furniture.
If you're out in the field, absolutely. Yes, if you're using a user name that has the correct rights, so using your own, for instance, absolutely, you can add something to it as you're going along. So you're walking along, you say, God, I never knew I owned that park bench. You can then create it there and then you can add the picture to it, and it's all done.
Brilliant.
It obviously depends upon you having a good, strong signal.
I'm not quite sure how accurate my GPS is on my phone.
Well, I think my recommendation would be that, as a general rule, create all the assets whilst you're sitting at your computer. Doing it whilst you're out in the field is a sort of almost a question of last resort or just convenience. Because actually, I find typing small details into my phone is a real pain in the neck. You know, you got to squeeze in or squeeze out in order to get the size of writing that you can cope with and that sort of thing. But what you really need is to have your text-to-speech system turned on and perfected, so you can just tell the phone what to do and it does it all for you. I'm sure we're heading that way.
I'm still not able to. I've got my location. I've reset it so that my asset is in Ely at my address and it's logged here perfectly, but I still haven't got how you get the photograph, because I've got 3 dots on the right hand side and all it says is geolocation on there. Yep. I've got the little thing in the middle that surrounds my property. That's all accurate.
Have you turned on the layers?
Where do I do that?
There should be on the left-hand side of your screen, there'll be a little, I think it's a sort of a box. But if you tap that, then
oh yes, I've got that.
Okay, so then you go into your asset register, select the layer that you're wanting to add the photo to, and then use the map to find the feature itself. And the point of geolocation is that the blue dot that is your position will normally be where the feature is, because you're standing in front of it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got that, but all I've got on that column is name, ELCP, blah, 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 data extract, copy to another layer.
Right, but sorry, I think what you've done is you've gone into the layer to create a record.
Oh, right, I've gone out of that now.
But okay,
yeah, so now I've got buildings.
Right,
okay.
So what you want to do is to tap on the actual item that you created.
Yeah, building contents, I've got it. So in table view.
What was the question, sorry?
In table view.
No. All you do in the building contents layer is just tap it to turn it on.
Right, done that.
Then in the map itself, the item that you've already created should show up.
Yeah, got a blue square now.
Yep. Okay. So if you tap on that, it should open the record for that particular item. And what you should see on your phone screen is the data record for the item. And you can go down to the attachments.
Right. Okay. No, it's not doing that. I'll play with that. Okay. Got it. I've got the item, but it's not. And it says files next to it. It's very. I don't know where to go.
3/4 of the way there.
I'm getting there. It's just trying to. Every time I tap on the screen, it just makes the map bigger.
What sort of phone have you got?
An iPhone.
Oh, right. That should be problem-free, because that's the one that they usually design around.
So I've got. I mean, you can probably see it here. Look, I've got the blue square.
Yes, and
every time I check on the blue square, it just makes the screen bigger. So I must be doing something wrong.
No, I don't think you're doing something wrong, but I think you're probably, because I don't have an iPhone, I can't recreate that for you. What I suggest you do is you get in touch with support at Geosphere.
Okay.
Send an email to Olivia Gould.
Olivia, yeah.
You know Olivia? So just ask her to walk you through it, because they're very good at that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, I will do. All right, I'll leave that on there for now.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Anybody else? All right, what I'm going to do now then is just run a check on my own system to see if I see 250 defibrillators as well, in case we know exactly that we have an issue. Let me just go and check on my system.
My goodness.
So we're in defibrillators. There we go. I do a table view. Oh my Lord. Yeah, how about that? Okay.
I don't think my internal auditor would like that much.
No, isn't that fun? Wow. All right, I'll get straight on to Geosphere about that myself. And,
fine, you can be responsible for maintaining all of mine as well.
The The thing is, you can't find your own on it, can you? That's the
How
problem.
wonderful. This is,
Gosh, we've only got one.
I've never seen this before. Isn't this is exciting? My. Well, who knew what happened in Lion Public House was going to defibrillator?
I know, the trouble is, it's how do you search for your own? You can't.
Oh, you can, yes, you should be able to do the column choice up the top.
Oh, right, yes.
So you can say description of location contains, and then, you know, Baylis or wherever you happen to be, Harston or Exton or whatever your town name is.
Oh,
And
okay.
then it'll narrow it down to that. So I'm going to put in Long Sutton, just LONG, and see if it finds them.
No rows found.
Oh, it does. It does. It works beautifully.
So say that again. So we've got a description of location.
Yes. Then the type will be contains.
Yeah.
Then the right-hand side, the value, just put in the name of your parish. And the list will drop from 250 down to 1 or 2 or whatever.
No, it says I've got no data available for Harston. That's helpful.
Have you?
I've got 2 on my map.
Okay. Are they? Have you? Can you call them up on your screen in table view? Oh, that's where you are, of course.
That's where I am. Yes. If I go back to DFibs, if I click on the DFib on the map.
Well, yes, this is finding what name it's got associated.
Then
with.
I go under defibrillators and it says defibrillator Village Hall. Oh, perhaps that's why it's not coming up, because I've got Village Hall. I should change that to Harston Village Hall, shouldn't I?
You need it, exactly. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
And then, but that's fun. You know, you should be able to now go into the table view and do a search on Harston, and it'll show up.
Right. Okay. I'll just do it while we're trying.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's not helpful for our asset register, is it?
No, well, I'll do that right now. In fact, if you're all utterly fascinated and want to stay with me.
Oh yeah, I've got it now. Thank you for that. Yeah.
It's going to say I'll do this I'll share my screen and we'll go ahead and create a ticket. So let's move to a new tab. Let's go to, there we go. Let's go to the knowledge base and let's go to create a ticket. So here we go. Defib asset register.
Okay, that's all done now.
Oh, dearie me.
So it does actually, there is actually a note on here that says national map of defibrillators. When adding to this layer, the things you have will be visible to other local councils. But when you want to print off your own report, you only want your 2, don't you?
Yeah, well, isn't that interesting? I've never even read that. Where are you seeing that?
If you just hover over the cogwheel on defibrillators, that message comes up.
Right. Well, one learns something new every day. That's magnificent.
But we do need it to work just for ours, for our particular reports.
It will work for yours, provided you've got Harston in there.
No, but when you go to do a print view, is it going to include all 250?
Isn't that a great question? That's a
because it did when we just did that. Now to do that again, we went to asset register export, didn't we? PDF buildings.
And it did get all of them, did it?
Generate report.
And you don't get the chance of bringing a filter in, do you?
No, there's no. So
Let's see what we do with this. Because I think that's actually quite a crucial unintended result of a national layer by the sound of it. Let's submit that and see what happens. Okay, I will let you all know what happens.
Thank you.
You should know within less than an hour, I would expect. So I'll send out with the email that's going to follow up to all of you what the answer is. So whilst I'm here, let me just show you this community forum, because this is a way of getting answers to questions from everybody across the country who's looking at this. So you can see that you can add a topic on any subject you like. If you haven't logged in here before, the system will ask you to log in with your normal email address. And then you can go ahead and type in any topic you want to, that you either you want help to get answers, or you want to raise a point. And the point I've raised is that the one down here, I think, was, I've got one somewhere that says, could we please have, yeah, CFC format. So this one here, I would love everyone to say, yes, please, we want this, if you wouldn't mind. So the way to do that is to click on the title, Asset Register Exports here. Pops the screen like this. It lists you any answers that we've had already. And John from Stoddart-Stones, no, he's in Nether Story, isn't he? He said that, yes, he really wants a CSV format. And you guys can go ahead and put answers in here. And they all get read and tallied by Geosphere, the people at Parish Online. All right, so I've got to the end of my formal program. If nobody has any questions, then I really thank you all very much for coming. If you do have questions, now's the time. And don't forget, please, that, and I'll highlight this in my report to you, I send a list of useful places, but Friday afternoons is the banter session when the usual suspects of parish councillors and parish clerks get together to answer any questions that you have on Parish Online. So it's an ad hoc thing. You can just drop in, ask your question and drop out again. Yvonne, you've been a couple of times.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It really helped.
Yeah, so I just mentioned that to people in passing, because these poor people are giving up their time and they'd love to be fruitfully involved in helping you. So by all means, just pop in. I'll send you the link in the email that's going to follow up this session. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.